Welcome to Barrio Voices, where we highlight the voices of our barrios, familias, and communities. This is Velas, and I hope you're having a good one. Sit back and enjoy la plática. Órale. Now, welcome back to another great episode of Barrio Voices. I hope that you all are having a wonderful day. In fact, it's our guest speaker's birthday as well. So much love to the homie Ray Flores. If y'all don't follow him, make sure that y'all follow him in his IG page, at Ray RAY_Flores FLRS. He's an amazing photographer capturing the essence of our own cultura, specifically the lowriding scene, So if you haven't followed him yet, then you're missing out. He's really representing, Southern California to a powerful, beautiful way, So much power to him, representing our own communities. Much love to you, as your birthday. So make sure that, you celebrate this wonderful year of life. Y besides all that, I'm gonna go ahead and have DJ Velas, hit the rola, Órale.
I'll take that back to maybe I was a little kid, man. I was under 10 years old. We moved to San Diego. My family and I, Pops got a gig in Logan. So we moved up to the Sherman neighborhood from Tijuana. So we came across the border, not legally. And so once we made it out here, we established ourselves. I constantly saw lowriders pulling up. I was always into old cars since I was a kid. My pops owned old cars, but he wasn't a lowrider. He enjoyed them. He pointed them out. He used to do cruises in Tijuana back in the days when they used to go down playas. So he'd tell me about this, and his brothers, my uncles, would tell me about it too. But it wasn't until we moved up here to San Diego that I was like, oh shit, man. That's cool. That's what a lowrider looks like. The shiny paint, tiny wheels, the bumping system. When they hit the hydros, man, fuck. That was it. That's what set it off. After that, I couldn't let go. I was looking at lowriders, drawing lowriders, talking about lowriders. All through middle school, that's how it was. Me and my friends just talking about lowriders. I was always drawing lowriders. I couldn't get them out of my head. Listening to music. I was lucky enough to my parents didn't know English, so I would listen to Snoop Dogg and Eazy-E, and all they talk about was lowriders, right? So I was surrounded with lowriders all the time. None of my friends or their uncles or anything like that owned a lowrider, but we saw them cruising down the park, so that was cool. That's what got me into it. A few years down the line, fast forward, and the lowrider show would come to town it was called in the Jack Murphy Stadium in San Diego. The Padres played. So me and my friends would make our way down to Murph and check out the lowrider show, check out the chicks. It was always cool. Took pictures with them, Deza, the hopping contest. So we always made it out. When I was in high school, we made it out. Bring my mom's camera, buy some film to shoot. This is before digital. And then just take as many pictures as I could of whatever rides I enjoyed the most. So that's kind of what kicked it off for me. Since I couldn't own a lowrider when I was a kid, and Pops didn't own a lowrider, my uncles didn't own a lowrider, but they did own classics. So what I was doing, I was building model cars, lowrider model cars, make them hop. Tried doing some crazy paint jobs. There was one time, there was this dude down the neighborhood that he was an airbrush artist. I don't know how we came across this, me and my boy, and we came across some of this airbrushing out. I think he was painting outside of his house or something. So we brought out one of our model cars. I'm like, hey man, can you bust something out? So he did some little cityscapes on them. Fortunately, don't have those model cars anymore. But I was trying to build lowriders when I was a kid. I was way into them. That was my jam. I couldn't get away from them as much as I could. Unfortunately, shortly after that, what I started realizing was a lot of my neighborhood friends' dads, the ones that were the not goody two shoes, but the dudes that were trying to fly right and be the cool dads or whatever, little league coaches type dads, started saying, "Oh man, that's a cholo ride. You don't want to get into that." So for me, when I was growing up, that always stuck in my head, and at some point, I pushed myself away from it because of that, because of all the stigma and the negativity behind it. And I pushed myself away for years, many, many years. It wasn't until I got into college and almost outside of college that I started realizing like, hey man, that's not the case. Um, and so what I wanted to do was try and figure out a way so that other dudes like me wouldn't have to go through that same thing of like pushing something they love so much because of what the neighbors, the dads, whatever it was that they were saying, all the negativity, all that stigma that was behind it. Don't let that push them away. So I decided to start taking pictures again and maybe showing them to people and showing not a different side, but showing what I saw. Because there is no different side to lowriding. Lowriding is family. Lowriding is friends. Lowriding is good times. So I can't say show a different side. It's all good sides. Sure, there's some bad apples, but there's bad apples everywhere. Bad apples in the church. There's bad apples in school. There's bad apples everywhere. So unfortunately, I let the worst of that get the best of me, and pushed it away for longer than what I should have. So I feel like part of my mission, what I'm trying to do, is maybe reach out to, and this is where I feel like it gets complex. Maybe reach out to Little Ray. Reach out to that one kid that maybe is going through that same thing and be like, nah, man, like that is not the case. Like it's not about cholo, it's not about gang life, it's not about negative stereotypes. Like there is positive through it. I don't know. I feel like that's a big part of it for me. Like trying to reach that little kid, trying to reach that teenager and show them the positive side of things. I now have friends that are like professionals, went through college, have master's degrees, have bachelor's degrees, that are lawyers, that have anything and everything possible, yet they're still lowriders. And I'm like, man, that shit, I'm sure existed back then, but how come we didn't hear about it? Like all you heard about was the negative stereotypes, right? Especially if you're from the outside looking in. Where my family wasn't a lowrider family, they weren't going to car shows. You know, everyone was busy doing things. So for me, I was more of an outsider trying to look in. And then you had other outsiders telling you all the negativity and all the stereotypes that were happening in the lowrider community that they were not part of. So for me, it's me trying to avoid that from happening to anyone else. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, it seems like you really invest a lot of energy and time into all the photography, everything that you're doing within the lowrider scene, you know? And I think, given all that effort that you put into it, I could see that you have a great purpose when it comes down to doing all of this. You come at it with some great intention that is really obvious to see, is really visible right away to the eye, you know. So I really appreciate you really doing all the work to really highlight us in a good way. And I feel like when you say you're trying to reach out to other little rays, you know what I mean? To the other little rays, what are some words that you would want to share with them?
So I kept doing that for a long time, and it's gotten to this point now where I'm like, been fortunate enough to have even been able to sell some of my pictures to people, hanging on the wall. To me, that's fucking crazy, man. Like I never thought someone would have like a picture I took on their living room. And by the way, that was like part of the key thing too. When for me, taking pictures is make sure that it was something that you'd be able to proudly represent in your living room, in your house, not just in your garage. Like it's important for me that you have this car, particularly a lowrider, inside your house instead of the garage. Because when it's inside your house, it means something else. And it's not just my photography that I feel it's the heart of it. It's the lowrider itself. It's what it represents and what it doesn't represent. There's this like long history behind it, and I want people to be able to show that in their house. I think I may have gone a little bit off the question or off the topic, but that's
No, I like it. I think it goes to shows again, like when it comes down to like your photography, it goes to embrace part of a low riding, right, in an additional way than just having that car.
So for me, it's gotten to the point where what I'm trying to do and my mission in this is to essentially show the positivity behind what we do as a crowd, as a lowrider community, and what messages we're trying to get across a lot of the times with these rides. So my goal, my intent with this is just to keep representing the community, the lowrider community, the Chicano community, as not just like one type of Chicano community, so or one type of lowrider community. And what I say by, or what I mean by that is, so what I'm trying to do, or where I'm trying to lead and show, is that like you don't have to be a certain way to be part of that lowrider community. That was another thing for me that like I thought like maybe I couldn't be part of it because I didn't. So I wasn't a Chucks wearing type. I wore Vans. I wasn't a Cortez wearing type. I wore Air Force Ones, all whites. But like that's cool. Like you can still be that. You can be a doctor. You can be into any kind of music, any kind of like style clothes, like whatever it is that you do, whatever lifestyle, whatever like floats your boat. You can still be into lowriders. You can still represent Chicanismo, and you can still represent yourself and your community. To me, that's probably the most important part of it, and what I'm hoping to kind of develop and evolve more as a personal brand, and what I'm trying to show. I don't know how or when that it happens, or how it may or may not happen, but that to me that's a, like the core of it. Like be yourself. At the end of the day, be yourself. You're not into all the things that all the typical lowriders are into. Cool, that's fine. Like you can still be into it. You're still part of our community. You're still a lowrider. You're still Chicano. You're still representing. You don't have to be like the same as everyone else.
Yeah, I like that, and I also like the fact that just by being, and yeah, it's by following your own passion, you uncover a lot of great things, on your road, on your path. So that's something that I like about this, story of yours. Another thing that I wanted to just hit on real quick, since you mentioned it, what does your logo mean?
I mentioned to you I was into drawing when I was a kid. Like I would draw cartoons, Hanna-Barbera, Looney Tunes, all that, Mickey Mouse, like old school cartoons, 40s, 50s, 60s. And what got me into that was my dad, and then in TJ we had Canal 12, which they always played like all the old ass Looney Tunes and all the old Tom and Jerry's and all that. So we didn't have anything, we didn't have cable or anything like that. We had like Canal 12, Telemundo, and then like maybe Fox, right? So I watched The Simpsons, and I watched Married with Children and Martin Show, and then all the Spanish stuff. So I needed to incorporate in my logo to have something that kind of meant something about me. So the gloved hand, which could be a Mickey hand, could not. If you take a look at old school cartoons, a lot of the cartoons have a gloved hand. So for me, it was more of that animation. My intrigue and inspiration from animation. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be an animator. I ain't cut it. I wasn't that good. But that always drove me. And Sarape, because I'm Chicano. I'm Mexican born, or Mexico born, Tijuana born, San Diego raised, but Chicano based on my political stance and my brown skin. So the Sarape represents that. Another thing the Sarape represents is I love the beach, right? So they hang loose. You see that with the surfers. You see that with the beach crowd. The Sarape is actually also a reflection of that. If you take a close look at it, it's actually the beach and a sunset. So then you have the hang loose. For me, the hang loose, I call it hang loose vato, because it's more of that like beach vibe, but also that Chicano vibe. So my official title for that little logo is hang loose vato. Yeah. So there's, like I said, there's a little bit of complexity to that. And that took me a while to figure that out. Like I couldn't even come up with the brand name that properly represented Ray Flores. So that's why I don't even really have like a brand name for anything. It's just Flores, because it's Ray Flores. It's complex. You might catch some hip hop. You might catch some corridos. You might catch some jazz. I fucking love jazz because of hip hop. So I feel like the logo incorporates all of that. It's a reflection of me directly, of me being a Chicano, of me being Mexican, of me being into animation, of me being and fucking loving the beach. It's all of the above. So it's that. You take a look at that logo and it's like, yeah, that's Ray Flores. Yeah. And I've never had to explain it. I think the only person that knows is my girlfriend. And I've given some hints to when I was doing the pop-up shops the last couple of years down in Barrio Logan. And someone asked me one time, and that was the only person that ever really asked me. And I was excited to break it down. I don't think they wanted to hear that whole spiel. You know, it takes 10 minutes, 15 minutes to break it down. But I feel it's important. It's an important like spiel to break down because it's not just the hand and it's not just the serape. There's so much depth to it.
Nah, I do appreciate you sharing. You know, I think it gives it some good meaning. You know.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Hey, también you know, to close it off too, I was wondering if you had any last words or any last comments you want to make, you know, about this episode or, you know, anything else you want to leave the audience with.
Yeah, man. First and foremost, thank you for having me. This is my first time being on a podcast. Nervous about it. Feels good. I wish we could be in person, but COVID. But best advice I can give is be yourself. If you're artistic, be that. If you're into cars, be that. If you're into drawing, makeup, whatever the case may be about that in your own way, in your own style. It's okay to be guided and I don't want to use the word copy others that are doing something similar, but to kind of be guided by it or influenced by it, that's completely okay. But the more you keep going, the more you push yourself to kind of figure out what your voice and your personal brand is. And that should always come out. So the main thing here is keep pushing. No matter what it is that you're pushing for, whether you're in school and you're trying to like figure out how to be an engineer, a mechanical engineer, how to be a marketing director, whatever the case may be, like keep pushing, but keep pushing like with your own style because that's what makes you unique.
And as always, mi gente, you know, much love to everybody that's tuning in. I have a great place in the heart for all the supporters, everybody that's, you know, been behind all this movimiento, right? All this, you know, building of our own barrio voices, you know, making sure that people recognize that we as a barrio have a lot of power, a lot of wisdom, a lot of beauty, you know, within our own essence, you know what I mean? And so if y'all want to continue supporting and get early access to our, you know, episodes, make sure that y'all go to patreon.com/barrio voices and, you know, support the podcast, you know, show some love, you know, but besides all of that, you know, share this with others, you know, make sure that your familia gets to hear this podcast, or your primos, primas get to hear this podcast, and that y'all, you know, be tuning in every week for a new episode, you know what I mean? But regardless of all that, I want to say muchas gracias. Y'all been in tune to Barrio Voices, where we highlight the voices of our barrios, familias, and communities. This is Velas, and to you all, much love, cuídense. Porra.